Okay, welcome to this last but not the least information seminar today and the whole exhibition. Thanks for introduction. Yes, my name is Jani Määtsä. I'm the CEO and the founder of Kementoros. I come from Finland. Before, I used to run a chemical factory in Finland, and I was myself facing constantly several challenges regarding the chemical safety issues. So luckily back then I had good help from my old-time friend, and I could concentrate myself on my formulations and my customers back then. So I realized back then that all my friends were asking also that the regulations are a bit challenging and I'm coming. So then I was thinking 2012 that maybe I could establish a company with my old-time friend to help other companies in same issues. So today my presentation is more like a practical industrial view of European Union REACH regulation. And I try to give some tips really which were inside the questions inside the business I was running back then also. So I'm also today going to present you an idea of the upcoming deadline, what it could mean, and I'm presenting everything as an opportunity to make a new business in Europe. So let's take a few facts about European Union REACH regulation. I think some of this information is already known, but anyway, I will repeat it, and I hope there is something new for you also today. So REACH is, of course, registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of the chemicals. And we say that it's the most comprehensive chemical regulation in the whole world. And that's also one very good point to understand when you follow or do the REACH registration according to European Union laws. That registration can be used later in the base of the registration dossier can be used later in other market areas. Three-phase implementation entered into force 2007, and the now final deadline is coming in May 2018. That means that all the substances imported to the European Union or manufactured inside the European Union must be registered if they exceed 1 metric ton per year. This is, hopefully you can see that, giving some information the past history deadlines. So we had this first deadline 2010 for very big amounts, like 1,000 tons per year, and also CMRs, 1 ton per year. Then 2013, we had a deadline of 100 tons per year imported or manufactured. And now we are facing only 1 ton limit per year, 2018 May last. So this change is very big. This change is big from 100 to 1 ton. So now we have a few basics here that the REACH registration is made for substances only. And for example, in cosmetic products, the REACH affects all the ingredients inside the product which exceed the 1 ton limit. I will give an example of this case study today later. From non-European Union company respective, they need a point so-called OR, only representative, to handle the registration if they don't have an establishment inside Europe. Okay, a few more numbers to give you an idea how big is the situation and how big is the REACH now in Europe. ECHA, European Chemical Agency, are accepting over 60,000 registrations to be made by the deadline. And this is from the June this year. So far, 9,000 have been done, the dossiers submitted to ECHA. Substances, what ECHA accepts, amount is 25,000 new substances registered. So far in June, 4,400 has been made. So European Chemical Agency's message is very clear: to register and act as soon as possible to avoid the last-minute rush if you have pre-registered your substance. Because REACH registration can take longer time. It can take, depending on the substance, from 3 months to 1 year or more. So this is also now good to understand that this is very great business opportunity for those who do this registration. We know already in Europe that many European companies will fail, and many others also. But that creates the market also for those who are accomplishing the registrations. Few more facts about the EU REACH, that now is coming more smaller so-called exchange forums. Many registrants are alone because the substances might be rare. One very important thing is to understand that there are higher percentages of SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, now obligated to do the registration. Of the substances, there are less information. So now there is a need to generate new data for the dossiers. And still, what I've been going around different cities and exhibitions and met many possible new registrants, many are still waiting for the right time, for the cheaper prices, whatever. But the fact is that the deadline is coming very, very soon. And very vital is to understand also that 2018 is not an end, but it's actually a new beginning. Because registration is like upgoing, it's up to date. It has to be up to date, updated always. And I will present the last part of this presentation, the manifestation of the REACH registration, what is it and how important it is. Okay. So I said already that full REACH registration is a major asset for placing your products, substances, on the European Union market. For example, substances, or also if we take, for example, cosmetic product shampoo bottle, the shampoo importers to Europe, they will register the components and they get the market. Those exporters from here to Europe, those exporters who do not register the ingredients may face challenges. I will explain it soon more. So, registration of the manufacturer applies all the distributors in the European Union. But the registration of the importer inside Europe applies only to this one importer only the one. This means that if your importer inside Europe makes the REACH registration, they will pay that, okay? They will have it. They have the number also, the registration number. But then that's only that importer's REACH registration. Other option is that manufacturer, non-European Union manufacturer, makes the REACH registration with an OR. And the OR can handle all the importers or distributors inside Europe, because OR takes the legal responsibility of all the possible distributors. So I will explain this also after a few slides. Many have been asking of me about the costs today and also before. This is, I would say the cost is a bit wrong word. The right word is investment. This is a long-term investment and it needs to be calculated very, very carefully. The basic registration, it contains 4 main expenses. And now also I attach here the timeline. So first is the technical registration work, which is done by the registrant themselves if they have a legal base in Europe, or by the owner representative. For example, data search, interpretation of data, data cap analysis, dossier submissions. Then there is laboratory costs. That means that the substance needs to be identified before you can make a REACH registration. So that is the laboratory part of the registrations. And this might be sometimes challenging because now many are making the REACH registration or starting to think or starting to make it. And the laboratories are getting more and more work and the queues get longer. So timeline can be, I just quoted one laboratory and they said that I can get the result April 2018. I had to take other quotations from other laboratories. So these 2 first parts, technical work is not long depending on the substance, few months, but the laboratory can take longer. And the costs, when we talk about costs, like the first part depends on the substance, few thousand euro to how difficult the registration is, to 10, 20,000. Laboratory costs depends on the substance again, but normally the determination, what is the substance, is few thousand euro maximum, depending. European Chemicals Agency take a registration fee, and that's listed price, determined by the size of the company. The timeline, European Chemical Agency says that now the more and more dossiers are being submitted until the final deadline. So also chemical agencies getting a little bit more crowded, like the queue gets longer now. So European Chemical Agency message, I repeat now here, is that to act in time, like we had in the idea that acting now is very, very crucial. The part number 4 is letter of access. This applies to so-called joint submission registrations, when in Europe the substance is registered together with other registrants. So if the substance has already been registered in Europe, newcomers will join that submission, join that amount of companies and buy so-called access, letter of access from them. And this is the last rules and guidelines from ECHA have been that these have to be very transparent. Also challenges to the so when you make a registration and reimbursement back to the registrant. Because is good, will be good, because many will fail this registration. I'm not trying to make you afraid or stressed, but this is a fact that there will be also those who won't register. And European importers, they are asking many times manufacturers that, do you have a registration number? Okay. Few words about enforcement. About enforcement, it means that how it's controlled, how this is like controlled in Europe. So enforcement of REACH is a national responsibility. So nation by nation, national authorities are actively carrying out inspections to verify the compliance. For example, here is Finland. We have there occupational health and safety authorities. Then there is the Center of Economic Development, Transport and Environment, customs, and municipal environmental authorities. So they cooperate together and will enforce practically, check on the borders that what is coming into Europe and also what is produced inside Europe, because this legislation is for both manufacturers inside Europe and all the importers who import in Europe. So there have been already challenges, and I present one case. But rejected products in Finland, 2015, for example, 2,000 products, consumer products were analyzed. 90% of them came out of the European Union, and rejected was 13%, totally rejected. And when the product doesn't fulfill the requirements, it can be either destroyed, revised, or returned back to its source. Now there have been also penalties. If you check the news or some other sources, even fines, high fines. And this enforcement acts information, what I'm talking about now, and all the other matters, they are also widely available service providers and chemical agency websites. So it's never. This was recently, you cannot see that, but I can read it, or maybe. This was recently in October that 25% of imported cosmetics were rejected by Finnish customs officials. European Union about cosmetic products, so it's like also not only REACH, there is another, which we heard actually today about more, the cosmetic regulation. But there is enforcement, and they are checking now more and more, and the European Chemical Agency and Commission, they have a program, many-phased program to really control the borders. Okay, let's take one perspective. List. Cosmetic products have many ingredients. And we take an example that the annual export to the Europe is 14 tons per year. All the substance by substance inside the product. Because the amount was 14 tons, So we calculate now the tonnages of the substances inside per year. For example, first, water, this doesn't count. The second one is 4.2 tons per year. Then polyglucose, 8%, and the others, they go less, they are 0.14, 0.07 tons per year. But now we need to know that the REACH registration has to be done, those which are over 1 ton per year. So we also face REACH regulation in the mixtures of products, like for example shampoo. Then we can take paint, we can take any kind of a product which has many ingredients inside. So we need to calculate it out, that how much is the ingredient inside. So now we are facing 2 registrations of REACH. And we need to make this, what I presented before, the 4 different steps, find out the prices for these 2 substances, how much it is. And then we need to think, do we make an investment here to still export this cosmetic shampoo in Europe in the REACH? Okay. From the non-European Union perspective, I mentioned before that for the REACH registration, we need to have the only representative to make the registration for the non-EU manufacturer. I'm giving now practical, concrete tips how to select a good OR if you need one in Europe, and what to take into account when you are thinking your choices. So of course, first to check that it's okay that they are established in Europe, okay? And is the OR taking care of the technical work? Is it insourced or outsourced? Both. How, who? And then if OR is the manufacturer distributor, take into account that what will happen when they need to cooperate with other distributors, if they act as OR, or do you have the other ORs? So need to be a little bit aware that what the distributors are doing if they make the REACH registrations, I mean the importers inside. Okay, few questions. Also can be member of any kind of association, so it's somehow in some cooperating somehow inside Europe. For example, ORO is one. Because there are the major challenges come with OR. European Chemical Agency, Gerd Danset, gave a very good explanation of this in Guangzhou, last June in China. He mentioned that 43% of failures of dossiers come from ORs. 18% come from importers, and 8% comes from the manufacturer themselves inside Europe, or the legal base. It means that ORs make the most mistakes when they submit the dossiers. 43% failed. So these questions and many more, for example, meeting an OR, check all the bases there, is very, very important work. Because if we submit the dossier and it's rejected and you submit again, and what happens, is it ever accepted? So the work, the money is in vain. What happens after 2 years is the OR still there. So who knows? But you really need to be careful when you select the OR if you don't have it now. And if you have it and you're not satisfied, it can be always changed. I'm showing a few examples here only. I'm not going to go through this list because of the time. But anyway, I give few examples. that what are the obligations, because OR is taking the responsibility out of importers now, out of the manufacturer also. So OR has a lot of legal responsibilities inside Europe. These are few. For example, the REACH IT account setup, of course. REACH IT is a tool to submit the dossiers. Of course, OR makes the substance inquiry process and dossier updates. And for example, this is few agrees and testing strategy and so on. So the list is long and it's continued here. I'm just giving the overall view that there are many obligations. I would say here is like the most important one, the organized is the chemical safety report, which is needed when the substance is exported to Europe over 1 ton per year. So this is one additional work, the REACH registration over 1 ton, when they exported over 1 ton per year. And it has to be organized to make the dossier and submit it. And then also very good quality of OR is that if they can make the safety data sheet for the product. And I will get back to this on my last slide. This is very important. Also, OR needs to have a cooperation with all the registrants in the CIF, in the joint mission registration, and cooperate with authorities, for example. Now 2017 challenges and 2018 maybe more. I already presented that there has been some challenges, and because of the statistic facts. So most of the time that the communication is a bit challenging. From non-European Union manufacturer to OR to forward to importers. So there has been challenges, and there might be not know-how or skill to do the actual work. And then the transparency is also, I heard this many times, that there have been some price and prepayment, and then nothing happens in 3 months. Where the money go? No breakthrough, no breakdown. It have to be breakdown of the price. So if you get the quotation, question every part of the quotation, what is this and this and this and this, and if there is something per hour, it's okay if you know how many hours about, because you cannot ever give the full price precisely, maybe. But anyway, the transparency is very crucial. Okay, few more details, few more tips to check. These are like ideas what we have been facing, from their previous ORs, which came to us. So I'm not like telling these out of air, but we have been heard these things in Europe and here. So for example, one-stop service is a very good quality of OR, meaning that if you are a cosmetic shampoo exporter, that the OR can do the REACH work, and maybe they can do the work for cosmetic safety assessment also. It could be clever to have in one place. Myself, when I was in industry, I wanted to have one person who took care of my regulatory issues, because I wanted to focus myself on my formulations and my clients. So one service is very good quality of OR. And then the last one is maybe the certificate, that they have a certificate to show the importers and the final customers that there is some kind of a value, of marketing value of the registration. That's kello. I'm going to pass these now because this is the last presentation of today, and I heard already that few have flights and so on. So just for you to know that if your substances are used in articles of any kind, for example, in power brush, hair dryer, shampoo bottle, in the plastic itself, it might face an other REACH challenge. So this applies, for example, to toys, clothes, textiles, fashion items, shoes. It means that if the product contains any kind of SVHC substance inside, this substance needs to be notified to ECHA if it's more than 1 ton per year and is present above 0.1% weight. So the substance of very high concern is an issue. Just for information of REACH also, that the same substance used in cosmetic product can be used in some other solid products, and it faces the REACH regulation there. And of course have to be aware if there is some authorized, like banned chemicals in the product. So it's good to have, for example, from the OR or some other place, so-called Declaration of Compliance certificate in case of articles exported to Europe. For example, toys, for example, jewelry of some kind. That does it contain SVHC chemicals or not? That document is needed in Europe. Importers and customers in Europe need that. Okay, this was only the quick notified information about this. And then now the final part is the CLP, the Classification, Labeling and Packaging Regulation. And this is the European Union's implementation of the global harmonizing system and applies the mixtures and substances, both. And the labels need to be in every nation local languages. When the shampoo is exported or the substance is exported, it needs to have the local languages and the legislation there. So this is coming to the final understanding of meaning of the safety data sheet according to CLP. This safety data sheet is the manifestation for your customers of the REACH registration dossier. And many times when we make a REACH registration and get the REACH registration number from ECHA, I hear that safety data sheet, okay, I can make it myself. It's just a paper. This paper is the most valuable paper you can ever make if you make a REACH registration. Because it has everything for your customer. And it has to be authored in the nation's own official languages. Many countries have many official languages in Europe. And local legislation of the nation has to be included, and the poison centers and so on. So it's not only a translation. If I have an English one, it's not good in Spain. It's not valid in Sweden if there is not the local legislation and the poisoning centers inside. So this document is very good value, for example, in marketing. Myself, I would say that the business card is one way, but the safety data sheet is much better business card. It can be branded in logo, it can be in your business own safety data sheet, own product quality information. by showing its very, very high level. Because that is the manifestation of the whole process. So I would say that like it's very, very important to prepare this very well. And of course, good OR, and if you know to do it, how to do it, okay, but if good OR knows how to make it in every nation language, it's very good value. Okay. If you have registered your substance, there is still time to finalize registration process. But the time is now. If you have a new substance, it's normal inquiry process. The REACH registration is not complicated. It's not like legislation is complex, but with good partners, it's not complicated to do. It's quite clear process. And also I said before that the REACH compliance gives more value for the substance and product also outside of Europe. And then it's very good to be careful when you are appointing an OR or meeting ORs. Challenge them. And the SDS, safety data sheet, that it's updated and it's a living document. It is alive forever. It's not the same always. It's alive, living document. And the labels and safety data sheets need to be in line. And they are up to date. Okay. I will finalize this now here, and I will be here with my colleague Antti Aalto to answer any questions you have. We had 5 pre-questions, but I will answer them by email, the questions what we have, so everybody has to answer. And if we stay here, and you can come to talk to us if you want. So Kementors is also providing these services what I was talking today about. So if you have any questions about how we can make things, so you can come to talk to us about that also. But for now, thank you very much for your attention.